Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Houston Texans in their Week 3 matchup. We're going to go over the scores and the stats and give our breakdown and analysis. Let's start off with the first quarter. DeAndre Hopkins caught a 5-yard touchdown pass from Ryan Mallett with about 5 minutes still left in the first, and that put the first points on the scoreboard. Bullock kicked the extra point, and it was 7-0 Houston over Tampa Bay. So that was the only score in the first quarter. So then in the second, Kyle Brinza would hit a 58-yard field goal for the Bucks to put their first points on the scoreboard as they cut the Texans' lead to 4 with the score Houston 7, Tampa Bay 3. So then we end up with an interception by Alexander as he ended up picking off Mallett, and that would end up setting up a 32-yard touchdown pass by Jameis Winston to Charles Sims. The extra point was no good as it hit the upright, and so it was 9-7 Devil Rays over the Astros, or Buccaneers over the Texans, rather. So this 2-point lead for Tampa Bay over Houston going into halftime. And in the third quarter, we ended up with another interception setting up some points, but this time it was Demps who would pick off Jameis Winston, and that would end up setting up a 39-yard field goal by Randy Bullock as the Texans took back the lead with the score Houston 10, Tampa Bay 9. So that was the score after 3 quarters of play. Then in the fourth quarter, Alfred Blue had a 20-yard touchdown run. Bullock missed the extra point, as this was the second missed extra point of this game. The other one came on the other side, but this one here made the score Houston 16, Tampa Bay 9, as it remained a 7-point game instead of an 8-point game if they had hit the extra point. But so it was 16-9, and then with just over a minute left to play, Bullock would add another 3 points for good measure when he kicked a 19-yard field goal that made it, oddly enough, 19-9 Houston over Tampa Bay. And the Texans would hold on to win this one. Of course, the Buccaneers missed 3 field goals in this game, so they left 9 points on the field, not to mention that extra point. So if they had made those 3 field goals in the extra point, it would have been tied. Of course, if Bullock had made that extra points and then fruits and nuts, and Merry Christmas and all that stuff. But anyway, so it was 19-9, Houston over Tampa Bay. As this was a defensive battle for sure. Both offenses were struggling. Neither quarterback really looked that good. Let's look at the numbers. Winston was 7-36, 261 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Mallett, 24 for 39, 228 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. This is almost mirrored numbers there. Pretty close. Not exactly, but Blue really had a huge game, surprisingly, as he hadn't really done much, in Foster's absence thus far. But in this game, he really came out and really showed improved, as he had 31 carries, 139 yards, and a touchdown. Kind of kicking myself for dropping him from a fantasy, but so then we had Muscle Hamster Doug Martin, 14 carries for 46 yards. The leading receiver was actually a tie between Hopkins and Evans. They both had 101 yards. Hopkins did it with 8 catches. Mike Evans had 7 catches. Hopkins did have a touchdown. So Hopkins, 8 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown for the Texans. Mike Evans, 7 receptions, 101 yards. He did not catch a touchdown. Murphy had 3 catches for 61 yards, and Sims 2 catches for 41 yards, including the touchdown. He also had 6 carries for 11 yards. Vincent Jackson, 2 receptions for 40 yards. All that for the Bucks. And over on the Texans side, Cecil Shorts had 6 receptions for 58 yards, and Nate Washington 4 receptions for 42 yards. He had one where he just kind of stopped running on his route, and the ball just kind of went over his head. He was looking around like, where's the ball? And it's like, it just went over your head, Nate Washington. But anyway, it was a little bit of miscommunication. Neither offense really looked that good. Both teams come out on the other side 1-2 as the Texans get their first win of the season as they avoid the dreaded 0-3. And so that is one good thing to take away for sure for the Texans, is they definitely needed to get into the win column, and they did just that at home against this Bucks team. They said bad special teams for the Bucks. Brinza 1 for 4. So he missed 3 field goals, and he even missed an extra point. I guess the only thing you could take away from that was good was that the one kick he made was a 58-yarder. So he's got power, just not accuracy. Bullock 2 for 3 on the field goals, 1 for 2 on the extra points. So he also missed a pair of kicks. As we saw 6 kicks combined missed in this game. 4 missed kicks for Brinza, 3 field goals, 1 extra point. 2 missed kicks for Bullock, 1 field goal, 1 extra point missed, if that wasn't clear. So anyway, we look at the defense. Conti had 7 tackles for the Bucks, and for the Texans, Jackson had 6 tackles. Demps had that interception. Of course, J.J. Watt just 2 tackles. Really didn't do much in this game. This is kind of interesting because you wondered how would Winston do against J.J. Watt. Not really big numbers, but he didn't get sacked, and he didn't. He had that 1 interception, so he didn't do too bad against the Texans. Melton did have a sack for the Bucks. We look at the team stats, and when it came to first downs, there was a huge discrepancy. The Texans had more than twice as many, as they had 30 first downs versus just 14 for Tampa Bay. As they looked really good when it came to getting first downs. And a lot of that had to do with their third downs. Is the Texans were 8 for 18, not a big percentage, just 44%, but 8 third down conversions is a pretty good number. And especially compared to the Bucks, who were abysmal on third downs. They just converted 1 third down out of 12. That's just 8% conversion rate for the Bucks on third downs. It's not, you're never going to win a game if you only have 1 third down conversion. You know, they have won a game this season, though, so I'm not saying they'll never win any game ever. I'm just saying you ain't going to win a particular game if you only convert 1 third down. And that was really their downfall, is they could not get anything, going. That's where they did not extend their drives, and they did not keep them alive. And that's also why they were forced to kick so many field goals, which ended up being missed field goals. We look at the total net yards. 413 for the Texans, 318 for Tampa Bay. We look at rushing, 186 net for the Texans, just 57 for the Bucks. And through the air, the Bucks had 261 net passing yards, as Winston was not sacked at all in this game. Mallett was just sacked once for a 1-yard loss, and they had 227 net passing yards for the Texans. When we look at the penalties, the Bucks were kind of shooting themselves in the foot, as they had 10 penalties for 84 yards. The Texans 6 penalties for 58 yards. Both teams fumbled the ball twice, but both times they recovered their own fumbles. They did not lose the fumbles, so not good to fumble, but at least they didn't lose them. But when it came to the red zone, the Bucks were not able to convert on their 1 red zone trip. They were 0 for 1. And when it came to the Texans, they were 1 for 2. So they converted 50% of their red zone opportunities. But they dominated the time of possession, largely in part due to the big performance by Alfred Blue. The Texans had the ball 36 minutes and 16 seconds versus just 23 minutes and 44 seconds for the Bucks. So the Texans, pretty solid defensive performance in this game, as they really didn't let the Bucks get anything going at all, really. I mean, they had some opportunities, but they were not able to capitalize, especially on third down. The Texans defense came up clutch, making the plays when they needed to. They said they weren't getting a lot of help on the other side from their offense, but the defense stepped it up big time for Houston. Even though they didn't have necessarily, they didn't have any sacks. They only had the 1 interception, but they were able to, on third downs, stop the Bucks from keeping their drives alive. They kept forcing them to have to settle for field goals, which they missed. 75% of those field goals. So I thought the Texans did a good job on defense. They still, have questions on offense, but they did get the ball, going on the ground. They did bring some balance to their offense, which was a good sign moving forward for the Texans, especially with Arian Foster's return imminent, as he could be playing maybe next week, maybe the week after. We'll see as that game, approaches. But the fact that they were so committed to the run shows, something, a glimmer of hope for the Texans, because if they can just stay committed to the run and have a balanced attack, their defense is good enough to keep them in games and hold other teams down, but they need to run the ball to keep their defense off the field and keep them fresh, and that's what they did in this game, and that's why they won their first game of the season here, as they beat the Buccaneers 19-9. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and had a great weekend and enjoyed all the sports.